Hello, my friends. This is Mrs. Watson from Outback Expressions. Today we're going to talk a little bit about narrative art. And I want to tell you, sometimes the art can tell the story, or sometimes the story tells the art. So let's take a look at this. Here we've got Fairy Tales and Pixie Trails by none other than myself, Mrs. Watson. And my pen name is MCV Watson, if you want to look it up. It's from the series Tell Me More, Grandmama, Tell Me More. I did do all the illustrations myself, which was a lot of fun. And a lot of times people ask me, well, did you do the illustrations first or did you write it first? And I honestly have to say, I think they simultaneously emerged. One idea just kind of fed the other. It was a matter of having this idea that I was going to do time travel. And from that idea, I started to support it with art and with the writing. And once I started writing the dialogue, that fed into some of the art pictures and back and forth. So really it just started with the idea and then everything else came about. Another thing you might like to know is that I wrote music to go along with this as well. And again, that was a part of that simultaneity, meaning it was done at the same time. So there's a sense of musical rhythm that runs through this, sometimes prose, sometimes poetry, sometimes just good old-fashioned storytelling. And there's a lot of art. I'm going to go ahead and skip right through to chapter 4 to do a little excerpt so you get an idea about the fairies and pixies throughout my stories. So this chapter is chapter 4, Pixie Pardons. Back in dry clothes again, I said, let's go on a nature hike. The trail starts right over there. And I pointed out the trailhead. The little one skipped ahead and waited for me to catch up. I told the children, slow down, please. I wanted them to drink in the sights of nature and remember these special moments. The scent of lavender filled the air. I saw a few sprigs popping up and knew we were right where we needed to be. As if right on cue, I heard a gruff, low voice say, pardon me, please. Looking around, I tried to place where the sound came from. I looked over to the children, and it was apparent that they had heard the little voice too. All at once, we stood still in our tracks and breathed in. The little voice came from the edge of the trail. There was a little fairy-like creature standing there with quite a load on his back. He didn't seem to be bothered by us a bit. The children looked at me with questions in their eyes. I said, well, you have just met your first pixie. Are you certain it was not a fairy? Araya asked. Yeah, how do you know it was a pixie? Asked Dylan. Well, it is plain to me, I said. Every time that I have ever seen them, the fairies are doing different things than the pixies, I continued. Pixies are always working, doing good deeds. They mend, tend, fend, and design things too. Also, they have a very good sense of humor and do funny little tricks. Did you notice that he wore leaves and grasses so that he would blend in with the ground? I asked. The fairies, on the other hand, can do everything that pixies do, but they take an oath to become a guardian. Once they earn their title, they are assigned to humans, other fairies, and pixies too, to keep them safe. You may notice that they are very elegantly dressed, with only the finest preserved petals sewn with spider's web silk, I described. Then I continued, fairies and pixies' wings are iridescent to reflect the color of the sky. That is so they can remain nearly invisible. Oh, I see what you mean, said Araya. So are the pixies boys and the fairies girls? Asked Dylan. I really don't think so, I answered. Let's follow this one and see where he takes us. Then we all started down the trail again. He was an elusive little fellow. We lost him a few times. As we moved deeper down the trail, the outside world seemed to spiral out of sight. The light seemed to spin around us, breaking the spectrum into a swirling rainbow of color. The gentle sounds of soulful music filled the air. There was no doubt that we had entered another world, tunneling through time. Attention, could be heard on a loudspeaker. 3 guests have entered the time tunnel. Destination Witopia. All right, so I'm going to stop with my reading right there, and you kind of get a sense that this is very imaginative. Lots of pictures, lots of interesting adventures, and indeed, these characters do travel time tunnels all over the world. It doesn't end at the end of Fairy Tales and Pixie Trails. I mean, this book goes on and on. It's got quite a lot in it. See, it's quite lovely. Lots of adventures. So it doesn't end here. The book actually continues. Oh, hello, pink kangaroo. That's right, Outback Expressions is home of the pink kangaroo. All right, let's get back into our fun fairy tales. So the second book is Destination Witopia. And on this book, you can even see there's a nice little excerpt that lets you know a little bit more about it. And it says, Destination Witopia is the second book in this series. Tell me more, Grandmama, tell me more. The author continues to explore time travel through a modern-day fairy tale, picking up where Fairy Tales and Pixie Trails left off. Araya and Dylan chat about their adventures with Grandmama. But wait, something happens. Their beloved Grandmama disappears. Will Araya's daddy and their granddaddy believe Araya and Dylan's stories about time tunnels, fairies, and pixies? Will they find her? Travel along this fantasy journey with your favorite characters and a few more. Ride the pendulum of time. Read, laugh, and sing. This is a wholesome and holistic adventure. All right, so this book was written for children of all ages. That means little people who can just enjoy the art alone, all the way to big people who enjoy all the fun details in the writing. But it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it. Following this, I'm going to go ahead and show you a few of the art behind the scenes photos. I'll probably share a little bit of the musical scores as we go along. What I want you to think about, and it's pretty important, is what is your story? What would you like to tell the world? It could be from the imagination. It could be from the heart. It could be something that really happened. Just think about it. It could even be a combination. For instance, I have real people as some of my characters, but the characters are not necessarily real people. See what I mean? So we have real people that take on the roles of fairies and pixies, but we also have real people in here as the real people in my real life. But the adventures themselves are all imaginary, and it's all really fun. So, what do you think comes first? Is it the writing? Or is it the art? Can you tell a story? Do you have an idea? Can you jot a few ideas down? Maybe draw a few pictures to expand on those ideas? And then perhaps do a little bit of dialogue or writing what they say? Or maybe you can write what they say, and then that gives you an idea of how they look. And maybe you then can develop their characters through art. You see, it doesn't really matter which comes first, the writing or the art. It really just matters, do you have a good idea? Can you share it with the world? Let's get started. This time we're going to get into those lines, but they may have to do with writing first. Or not. It may just be back to art again. All right, you have a wonderful day. Have a fun time. Develop those imaginative ideas. And I look forward to hearing back and seeing your beautiful artwork. Have a great day.